Welcome to the Tucson Tasty Show. I'm your host, Wesley Source, here in studio with some amazing guests today. And before we get started with that, this show would not be possible without our amazing sponsors. Thank you to Kiki Rogers of Country Financial Insurance, Vera Earl Premium Beef, Dirty Cactus Soap, Novus Vita, and Mafia Kitchen. Don't forget to subscribe and share for everybody out there in on YouTube. Again, that's the Tasty Show 520, and you can see us live in studio and get some behind the scenes. And yeah, so we're here today with Michael of Harbottle Brewing Company, and we're going to talk about what it is to take, or what it takes to open a brewing company, but also to get into some of these amazing things. But before we do that, we just got back from Vegas with the Bar and Restaurant Expo. We got to follow around some of the amazing chefs from Tucson, and we're really looking forward to all that content. And you can find that on our Facebook page, and that is the Tucson Tasty Show, and we're going to be posting that out to Instagram as well. Same, the Tucson Tasty Show, and listen wherever podcasts you want to listen to are. All right. So how you doing today, Michael?
I'm doing great.
Do you prefer Mike or Michael?
Either one.
Okay.
Most people call me Mike. My family, I've always been Mikey. There's so many Michaels in my family.
So we'll just call you Mike.
Just Mike is
all right,
good.
because I'm not a part of your family yet, but we have another 45 minutes or so, maybe.
By the end of it, for sure.
How you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me in today.
Thank you for coming in. It's my pleasure, and your beers are so incredible that I had to bring you in. But then you also serve pizza, and we're going to talk about that a little bit.
Okay.
Well, flatbreads?
Yeah, flatbread pizzas.
Flatbread. There we go. So tell us a little bit about Harbottle, where you located to start out.
So we are kind of midtown. People kind of get the idea that we're in the middle of nowhere. We're located on the southwest corner of Palo Verde and Ajo, right near the swap meet. Our neighbor is Chopsticks right there. We've been there just over 6 years.
Wow.
And ever since they finished the aviation extension, we're literally a 7-minute drive from downtown. We're super close to downtown Tucson.
That's awesome. Well, it's really accessible from the freeway as well. So it's not like you're in the middle of town, because when everybody's in the middle of town, I mean, I can tell you a couple breweries that it's hard to get to because it takes forever to go through all the stoplights and everything else in Tucson, but we won't get into that. That's another subject, right?
Yeah, it's really nice. We're only like a half mile from I-10, and so we are the closest brewery to the airport, which has been really lovely for us. We get a lot of people with a couple-hour layover, and we get people walking in several times a week with a ton of luggage, and we're like, oh yeah, you can just put it in the corner, you're fine. And they'll come out, have a couple beers before catching their next flight.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when you walk into Harbottle, I mean, it's quite the atmosphere. I mean, you got it opens up, you've got a couple little seating areas, you got a couple tables, and you have the bar, and then you have TVs. And is that just who you are, and you just kind of built out the space, or how did you come up with that kind of atmosphere?
That I'll give 100% credit to my wife. In the months and years even leading up to opening the brewery, right? We both spent a lot of time on Pinterest, and so constantly pinning things and sending them to each other of like just ideas that we aesthetically liked for the brewery. We were looking to try to create a place that was very warm and inviting, and hopefully accomplished that.
Yes, you did. And the dog is definitely an addition, because every once in a while, is that your dog that's in there?
No, my dog is a jerk. He doesn't come to the brewery with me.
Okay.
I love him to death, but he's a little too excited. But yeah, there's a couple regular dogs that come in and hang out, and
just a good environment.
Yes,
kick
really
back
is.
and relax and enjoy. And so tell us a little bit about the historical context regarding Captain John Harbottle's life, because that's what the brewery's named after, right?
Yes, we're named after John Harbottle.
Tell us a little bit about that and what the significance is for you in regards to the brewery.
Okay, so John Harbottle was a young sailor in the British Navy, late 1700s, and he was sailing on a ship called the HMS Jackal in the South Pacific, and one of the expeditions, he was part of a lot of Captain Cook's expeditions.
Okay.
And they would often stop in the Hawaiian Islands for, rest, resupplying, more rest. It's Hawaii, so who wouldn't want to stop there? And one of the times that the ships had stopped at Hawaii, there was a massive civil war taking place. Hawaii, the nation of Hawaii, had not yet been formed, so every island had its own chief that ruled that island, and there was one chief in particular that was really fighting to unify the islands, and during the Civil War, and John Harbottle got mortally wounded just by happenstance, and he ended up being taken in by a Hawaiian native woman who I cannot pronounce her name, but she was the Papunapu Apu. I don't know. My mother would kill me if I should know our own family history. But she was the high chiefess to one of the kings, or chiefs, I should say. And she nursed him back to health, and they ended up creating a bond. They fell in love. And the chief found out that, John Harbottle had access to a lot of English military artillery, 8-pound cannons and muskets and those kinds of things. So the chief said, well, hey, maybe we could strike up a deal here. And he kind of became a military strategist and almost an arms dealer for the chief. And he ended up helping that chief win the Civil War. That chief was King Kamehameha I.
Okay.
So he became crowned the very first king of Hawaii, and kind of for all of the help that John Harbottle had given, he was like, well, you seem to love my daughter, she loves you, why don't you all get married? And so he was married into the royal family, became part of the nobility. He was the first non-native white person, I guess, living on the islands permanently, and he became the royal bearer of crowns to the king. He became the king's port pilot, and virtually ever since that first Harbottle, there was a Harbottle in the royal court all the way up until the last queen in the 1940s.
Okay. Wow. That is a rich history.
It's a very rich history.
So did he live out his life on the islands then?
So he did. He lived out his life on the islands. Most Harbottles did. When during the war, when the United States government came in and said, we're taking Hawaii, we need it, a lot of the Harbottle land was just taken by the U.S. government. I'm not trying to talk bad. It was it's not a political thing. This is just what happened. This is just what happened.
We're just talking history right
now. And so they remain. There's still Harbottles that remain in Hawaii to this day that are descendants from John Harbottle. I actually, a few years back, met a guy from Canada that he came to the brewery, and he looked exactly like one of my uncles. And his last name was Harbottle. I'm like, we gotta be. Turns out, he's my second cousin. And I was like, I'm like, I'm related to John Harbottle. He's like, I'm related to John Harbottle, and I'm like, you're a spitting image of my uncle. We have to be closely related. So it's kind of fun.
Fair enough. So what inspired? So there's some family connection there.
Yes.
So I'm sure that's part of what inspired you to name the brewery after Captain Harbottle, right?
Yes. Yeah. At the time, he was a first mate of the Jackal. He became captain of a ship called the Lilybird shortly after his time in Hawaii.
So ultimately, how does the legacy resonate with your brand?
We try not to get too tiki themed about things. We don't really embrace I do embrace the Hawaiian culture. I identify myself as a Pacific Islander despite my very pale complexion. So I do I love that rich history. There is so much of Hawaiian history that is just a oral history. There's not a lot that was ever written down. And there's a story in my family that a lot of the wealth of the family, we had one of the Harbottle descendants was quite the drinker, quite the gambler, and lost our entire family fortune essentially in a poker game at a bar.
Oh boy.
And joking around, my parents and I thought it would be funny what if we restarted a new legacy with the Harbottle name and hopefully regain back our legacy and have something that's timeless. And that was kind of the joke behind it.
Well, beautiful. So we're gonna come back and we're gonna hear more about the legacy and how you've developed some of the tastiest beers and sours in the market. But before we go out, another special thank you to our amazing sponsors. I'm Wesley Source, host of the Tucson Tasty Show. We'll be right back with more of Michael with Harbottle Brewing Company. Special thanks to our sponsors, Kiki Rogers of Country Financial Insurance, Viral Premium Beef, Dirty Cactus Soap, Novus Vita, Mafia Kitchen, and Stay Tasty Tucson. Welcome back to the Tucson Tasty Show. I'm your host, Wesley Source, and we're here in studio with Mike of Harbottle Brewing Company. That was a good break.
Yeah.
Everybody at home that's watching on YouTube and Facebook got some inside information there and behind the scenes, which is pretty cool. If you get a chance, go check it out. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share, and repeat. And that's the Tucson Tasty Show on Facebook and the Tasty Show 52 on YouTube. It will be up there for posterity until the end of time, maybe, or until YouTube dissolves, one of the two, which will probably be the end of time, right? But welcome back, and special thanks to our amazing sponsors, Kiki Rogers of Country Financial Insurance, Viral Premium Beef, Dirty Cactus Soap, Mafia Kitchen, and Novus Vitas. All right, so Michael, we were talking about, or Mike, sorry. Michael, yeah. Whatever comes out, I guess. But the beer guy, the beard guy.
The beard guy.
It works.
Yes.
The bearded beard guy. You gotta get that license real quick.
I know, yeah, for sure. I can't shave it off. I grew it shortly after COVID. March 17th, 2020 was the last day I shaved, and it's become a brand. And I wish I could get rid of it, but now I can't.
Need stickers, something like our logo here, except it's just your glasses.
My face is on a T-shirt.
Oh, perfect.
It's yeah. It's weird seeing your face on other people you don't know walking around Tucson. It's kind of humorous.
I understand that. But it's my logo more than anything else. Anyways, not my face yet, and hopefully never, but who knows. So when we left off, we were talking about the history of the name of Harbottle, Captain Harbottle, John Harbottle, and how you're related to him. So he's your uncle?
He is my 7-time great uncle. So he would be the son-in-law to King Kamehameha I.
Right. And that's kind of how we got to the name for Harbottle.
Yes.
And the connection you shared with us a little bit on the break. Are you willing to share with the rest of our audience?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
So what exactly were we sharing?
Why did you name it the Harbottle?
So it originally came out. There's like I was telling you, so much of Hawaiian history is an oral history,
right.
And there's a story in my family that after the nation of Hawaii was dissolved, the Harbottles lost a lot of their land, and what they did have left went to one of our great uncles who loved the drink and loved to gamble, and lost most of, if not all of our family's land and their fortune to a game of poker. And
oh, wow.
we were joking around, my parents and I, about our family lost our legacy in a pub, so wouldn't it be kind of funny if we built a new legacy by starting a new pub?
That's brilliant, and it's wholesome and organic. I like it.
It is, yeah. It was fun, and so it's been a confusing name over the years for sure, but it's still been fun, and we love it.
Absolutely. And so, getting back into it a little bit, could you elaborate on the story of I know we talked about all that. How do you ensure that the narrative surrounding Captain John's Harbottle life remains authentic despite the humorous retelling often associated with the drunk history?
Oh, yeah, so the drunk history is a funny thing. While entirely historically accurate, we love sharing our story. When you come into the brewery, there's actually a family lineage. There's a little family tree that kind of dates back all the way to John Harbottle. And, we love telling that story and keeping it alive. Like I said, so much of this is an oral history. If you were to Google John Harbottle, it's hard to find anything on him. It's very difficult.
Yes, it was.
And my mother is really big into family history, and she will. She's gone back on all sides of family, generations and generations, searching birth records, marriage records, baptismal records, and really pieced together a lot through other family members to find out what is really the story. Because, like I said, you Google John Harbottle and you don't get a lot. And so the best way we try to preserve it is just to share it. And one of the funny ways we share it is on some of our cans. My wife has a great retelling that she was telling someone the story and, had a few drinks, and we did a little drunk history version. And on the can, it's almost verbatim and of what she said. And it's humorous, it's tongue-in-cheek, but all entirely historically accurate.
Beautiful.
I encourage you just to go find a can of our beer, even if you don't want to buy it and drink it. Just pick it up and read the story. It's hilarious.
Where can we find that?
You can find our beer at most, if not all, craft beer places in town. You can find it at Arizona Beer House is one of our biggest supporters, Tap and Bottle, Tucson Hop Shop, Total Wine from Now and Then, to find it in package, Roy's Liquor Store.
Okay.
Any place you're going to find good craft beer in Tucson, you can usually find our cans.
Outstanding. Or you can come to the brewery.
The best place to find it is come directly to the source. We always appreciate that, and we have those available at the brewery.
Outstanding. Perfect. So in what ways does the rich history of Captain John Harbottle's influence the ethos and directions of the brewery?
Directions.
One of the two. I can speak, I promise.
Again, we really strive just to tell people our story. We want to keep that story alive, and hopefully, if enough people hear it, enough people know it, we can. Because I guess there's not a whole lot written down, and so our bartenders all know the story. They've told it so many times, and we like just keeping that tradition of oral history alive.
Right. Can you shed some light on the ongoing efforts to research and we talked about that too, man. I mean, you're covering all this stuff.
I tend to ramble on, so I can
go for it.
I can go in a lot of different directions at once.
So let's start talking about some of the varieties that you have in the brewery. So with some of the varieties, let's talk about the pickles. So
this is our newest addition to our lineup. We came out a little over a year ago, and it started off. My daughter is in the Air Force. She's stationed in San Antonio, and my wife and I would go to Texas a lot to visit her. And pickle beer is a very big thing in Texas. There's a huge Polish community, especially around the San Antonio, Austin area, right between New Braunfels, Texas. Big Polish community. And pickle beers are just huge. And every time we would go to Texas, we'd have friends like, oh, bring us back some of that pickle beer. And I would load my truck up with cases of pickle beer. And after like our third or fourth drive out to Texas, my wife looks at me and goes, what are we doing? Like we own a brewery. We can make pickle beer. Right. And so we started off, and my business partner fought me tooth and nail. He thought it was the dumbest idea. He's like, this is going to bomb. No one's going to want it. And we started off making just a very simple sour beer recipe. And I went down to a local restaurant supply store and bought buckets and buckets and buckets of pickles. And I had no idea what to do, how to add them in the process, where to add them in the process. And we started making this pickle beer. And we canned about 99% of it because we figured no one's going to buy a keg of this stuff. Right. And we sold out in 24 hours. And
24 hours.
24 hours.
Just gone.
Yeah, 40 cases of beer just gone.
Goodness.
And so we brewed it again.
Right.
And same thing. And so eventually we ended up partnering with Mrs. Klein's Pickles up in Phoenix to formulate a recipe with them and to get better access to a locally sourced pickle and,
almost.
Well,
close.
Well, local Arizona. If there was a pickle manufacturer in Tucson, we would have gone to them. For
Understood.
Sure. And this beer has become just an unstoppable phenomenon. It is leaps and bounds our best seller above anything else. And who would have thought? Incredible. It's like pickle beer was the one beer that got us noticed.
So, and that's actually, it kind of goes into, so sours are kind of up and coming with a lot of the younger people getting introduced, and, the lighter drinks that are out there, and we won't name any on the air because they're not paying me yet, but some of the seltzers and other things as well.
Sure.
So, I mean, when you're talking about a pickle beer, how do you go about, you're not talking about taking a pickle and putting it in the wort, right?
Pretty much.
So
our process, we kind of keep it a little bit of a secret. Any brewers out there will know exactly how we do it. It does get added to the wort, and we are buying a specially made brine from Mrs. Klein's that they formulate for us. And
low acidity, I'm sure, so you don't kill off the yeast or anything.
No, so it's very acidic.
Really?
And so it actually goes in post fermentation. So there's the big secret. I'm terrible at keeping secrets. It goes in at post fermentation. So that way we're not killing off the yeast, because adding vinegar and spices and all, it's going to wreak havoc on fermentation for
Absolutely.
sure. So it starts off as a very sour kettle sour, to which we ferment out and then add our special brine to it.
So when you're developing that flavor, it's got to be, the base has to be pretty simple, so you don't ruin kind of the complexities, or do you go with something that's a little bit more hearty? So, and before you answer, when I'm making like a pumpkin beer, because I brew, or I used to brew all the time, but I need to get back into it maybe because my wife loves the pumpkin beer that I make, but I literally take a whole pumpkin and roast it. Actually, there's like 4 or 5 pumpkins that I roast, and then I throw it in the wort, and then it's all gets filtered out when we after we chill the wort, and we're pouring it in to start the fermentation and pitching. And I just put out a whole bunch of information that a lot of people are like, what did he just say?
But there's some beer nerds out there going, oh yeah, they're taking notes.
But I actually pour a whole bunch of pumpkin spice on the pumpkins, because you get that authentic like pumpkin pie when you bite into it, because you get the all the grain flavor that you get from from the wort, and then you get the pumpkin notes, and then you get a little bit of pumpkin spice. So the whole goal was to actually bite into it like a pumpkin pie, kind of like the smell that I have for my Freshies. This is pumpkin pie. Or that's not pumpkin pie. That's apple pie from
delicious.
Dirty Cactus Soaps, and the whole goal is to get it so you're like, you get that mouth water because it smells like a traditional pumpkin pie.
Yeah, I want to take a bite of that.
Yeah, or apple pie. But and as a happenstance, we got these when it was still hot outside. So you hang it in your car, and you open up your car door, and you get hit with that like hot apple pie smell.
Oh man!
And it just, nobody doesn't want to get in my car. But it's got to be pretty similar to that, and I think we'll touch on that a little bit more after this hard break that we're coming into.
For sure.
But a couple quick notes.
Okay.
Just a tease for the next segment. Go ahead.
So this beer does start off as a kettle sour, and it is very, very sour is where we start the process. And from there, we add our secret ingredients to it. But it's pretty much a very simple grain bill. We want to keep everything out of the way of the pickles. Like your pumpkin beer, we want it to be, you are drinking a dill pickle. Like, we want it to be the true experience. We don't want it to be like, oh, it tastes like pickle a little bit. I get pickle notes. This is carbonated pickle juice. Make no mistake.
Well, when we come back, I'm going to review that, because you've let me try both of the ones that you have. I don't know if you have another one, but a quick thank you to our amazing sponsors. I'm Wesley Source, your host for the Tucson Tasty Show. We'll be right back with more from Mike with Hard Bottle Brewing Company. Thank you, Kiki Rogers, Country Financial Insurance Bureau, Premium Beef, Dirty Cactus Soap, Mafia Kitchen, and the Novus Vitas. This is the Tucson Tasty Show. I'm your host, Wesley Source, here with Michael of Hard Bottle Brewing Company. How you doing?
I'm doing great. This is a lot of fun.
Yes, I'm enjoying it as well. Thank you for coming in, and really, it was kind of a last-minute thing, so I definitely appreciate that, and I'm not afraid to say that, because things happen. I mean, when we're dealing with chefs all the time, I mean, they get slammed and they can't come in, and that's okay. We'll have to, adapt and overcome, and you were able to do that. So I really appreciate it.
I'm not going to complain to get to hoard your entire show. It's kind of fun.
So this is Tasty Bites, but we're not going to have Tasty Bites. But let's talk about your pizza really quick.
Tasty Sips. Yeah, there's bites. So this is a thing that started off during COVID. We were just trying to find ways to survive, and when we were able to reopen, to try and find ways to get people into the tap room again, and so we realize that people will hang out a little bit longer if they have food. And we were dealing with food trucks for so long, and the good food trucks don't stay food trucks for long. They end up moving on to brick and mortars. And then there's the other food trucks that, it's hard to get them to show up. They're flaky at best. And so we got tired of dealing with the schedules. And so we're like, we got to get food. And we partnered up with a local food supplier here, and they set us up with a pizza oven and helped us formulate recipes. Awesome. And from there, we just kind of evolved, and now we're making some really delicious, flatbread pizzas, and we call them gas station nachos. Nothing fancy. It's literally, tortilla chips and jalapeno cheese sauce.
And you use a flatbread that's pre-cooked.
It is. It's a par-baked crust. Yeah. It's from a bakery up in Phoenix, Rich's Flatbread. And you can buy them here locally in like Restaurant Depot and so forth.
And for something that's pre-made and then reheated, I actually appreciate that because it was still soft, it was still chewy. It's everything that you want in a pizza crust, especially when you're drinking a beer. It's not overpowering. It's not the focus of the experience. It's the complement to the experience.
Right. Yeah. We're a beer place. We're not trying to be a restaurant. We do not want to be a restaurant. We're a brewery first and foremost, and that's all we'll ever be. But people need to put some food in their belly. You have one or two beers, and you have an empty stomach. That can be it's not responsible sometimes. So we want to make sure people can have something to eat, and the food is delicious. The pizza is really good. And, it's been a major success ever since we launched it, about a year and a half ago, 2 years ago.
Beautiful, beautiful. And, one of the things that I appreciated about it was that it was nice and piping hot, and you did get that nice color on the cheese and everything else. I got to go eat Secret Pizza in Vegas, and if you know where it's at, you know where it's at. If you don't, it's called Secret Pizza for a reason, and I don't want to ruin it. It's in the Cosmopolitan, but it's really tasty, and they actually do make a lot of the pizzas up front. It's a New York style pizza. I took I went down there with the chefs that we were up there, or the chefs that were up there as well, and they were kind of like, wow, this is good stuff. And it was reheated crust essentially, but they throw it back in the oven, and it just gets that little bit of crisp and everything else. It's just, you get that little bit of crunch. It's still soft and doughy, and then all the air, and it's piping hot, and it's really good pizza.
And that is an advantage for us while we use par-baked crust. So it's not, we're not just reheating. It's mostly baked. So it goes into a 700-degree pizza oven, so it has to be able to cook a little bit and crisp up. And, so it works out really good.
Yes, it does. So I appreciate that, and thank you for talking about that on Tasty Bites. Now back to pitching yeast and the wort chilling. Do you go? All right, so I haven't been back to a tour of your facility, so I don't really know a lot about what's going on back there.
We'll have to fix that next time you come in. We'll definitely give you the grand tour.
I might just come in after the show, man.
We can head over there for sure. So this beer starts off for people that are familiar with the brewing process as a kettle sour, and kind of in the world of sours, there's two schools of thought. One of them is a beer that is fermented out fully and then added to a barrel, where then bacteria is added, and then usually barrel aged, and a slow secondary fermentation process happens to sour that beer over weeks, months, even years.
Oh wow!
Then there's a quick and dirty version, which I used to be kind of I would kind of turn my nose up at once in a while. It was a kettle sour, and to me that was cheating. I had always likened it to microwaving a steak. You'll get it done, but it's not going to have the same complexity levels. And for a long time I would be like, it's cheating, that's not a real sour. and I was completely wrong. I was a young brewer, a little bit arrogant in my thinking, and we started experimenting with sours. So this is a kettle sour, meaning that it goes into you do your regular mash, you convert your sugars, create the wort. It then goes into a brew kettle to where it's boiled for 15, 20 minutes just to kind of pasteurize it
Right.
and kill off any bacteria you don't want. So then we can bring it down to temperature in the kettle to about 100 degrees.
Okay.
And we'll hold it there for anywhere from 24 to 72 hours, depending on the beer. We'll inoculate that with strains of bacteria of our choosing.
Right.
Typically lactobacillus bacteria, the same bacteria you're going to find in yogurt.
Right.
And we'll inoculate it with that and monitor the pH over the next couple days. And when it gets down to the pH level that we want, then we know it's time to boil it again. We kill off the bacteria a second time. So now we have clean sour wort to ferment. Then it goes into the fermenter, and we use our regular ale yeast or lager yeast or whatever we're using to ferment that out. And then, it's just beer as usual at that point. So it's
Right.
one little intermediate step where you're souring the wort for a few days, sometimes 24 hours. Like I said, depends on the beer.
Wow. And now I'm thinking about the beer and how sour. I mean, is there a scale for the sourness?
So it's going to be
like the Scoville,
pH.
right?
It will be on a pH scale.
Okay.
So usually when you start getting, like most beer hangs out 5.5, maybe 6 on a pH scale. It starts to get, as you start approaching 4, a pH of 4, you start to really taste, anything below 4.5, really, you'll start to notice a tartness to it. And a lot of sours will get down to 3.5, 3.2. When you start getting really low, then you're just making pure acid. But
Right.
what's making it tart is the acid content.
Okay.
You're creating lactic acid essentially.
That makes sense.
In the beer, and so you're measuring with just a pH meter that acid content, and that'll give you an idea. And plus, you're tasting it, so you can actually see like what does a pH of 3.5 taste like. And so I'll do a combination of literally testing with the pH meter and tasting and making sure it's the sourness that I want before moving on to the next step. And most of the time it works out.
Interesting. So it is kind of like the Scoville level, but it's actually literally just pH.
It's just
and
pH,
that brings it in. And I do a challenge sometimes on the show where I actually have the hot sauce. And we're talking about Carolina Reaper and Pepper X, and they're absolutely incredible and very, very tasty. See, my mouth is watering again thinking about the hot sauce.
Mine is already. I love spicy.
And I have one that I got recently. So I have I get everything from Hot Ones, and not embarrassed to say it because I'm not going to make it because there are people that make this stuff and actually brew it. I'm pretty sure they have hazmat suits on while they're making it, especially the last one I got. It was a Carolina Reaper, and I got 2 Carolina Reapers. And I've had Carolina Reaper in the past, no problem. And it's just, it's really good. It has that slow burn. Well, this one, I literally wrote on it with the Sharpie 4 enemies because I had the less one that was just full of flavor, and it was just absolutely incredible. And I'm like, well, this is nothing. So I poured on the next one and, scooped up a big, good amount and put it in my mouth. And it burned so much. My eyes uncontrollably watered for about 15 minutes. I turned red. I sweat. It started to sweat and everything. And I was like, it's really good, but oh my goodness.
Yeah. No, I have similar things. There's actually a hot sauce. It wasn't even a hot sauce. It was a chili oil that I bought 15 years ago. It was 650 million Scovilles.
650. Okay. Yeah.
And it was just too hot to put on anything. And it literally, I would dip a toothpick in it, and if I'm making a pot of chili, and stir a whole pot of chili with just one drop on a toothpick, and it would make it just incredibly spicy.
Right.
And it never really got used until we started this pickle beer, and people started asking for a spicy variant.
And that's what I was going to next.
Yeah. And so I literally, I was like, well, here's a use for this stuff because it's so hot. And so the way we'll do our spicy is I'll just dose 1 or 2 kegs with this oil.
At least you're not using the distilled capsaicin because that would just be mean.
Yeah, and this stuff. So in 15, I don't know how many milliliters it works out to, but for 15 and a half gallons, I'm putting 1 milliliter of this oil.
Whoa!
And
wow.
it makes it hot. I mean, not so hot that you can't drink it. We want it to be it's Arizona hot. Most people can handle it, but it's spicy, and you know it's there.
One of the things that I appreciated about both these is the flavor that comes through, and it does taste like you're biting into a dill pickle. You're not just drinking the juice. And I've had friends that are like, you got to drink this pickle juice, and sometimes I'll put vodka in it, and it's this great thing, and I'm like, not for me. Yeah. And that's what I was kind of expecting when I came in, and everybody was like, you got to try this, and you got to try this, and it's not. It's a dill pickle. That's what it tastes like when you're biting into it. So it has all those complex flavors, and then it really is sour, and I love sour. So I drink it up, and then the hot one. The thing that I appreciate about the hot one is that it's not overly hot. Where you're right, you're not going to be sitting on going
yeah, and it doesn't build on you. It's just like it kind of that level just stays right there after one sip or 10 sips. It doesn't keep growing, which is nice. And you can sit there and enjoy it with a pizza, and you don't have to put peppers on the pizza because you got the combination right there. But both are absolutely incredible, and something that you can drink a glass or two without having too many issues. I've had wine with habanero in it. No. It's like drinking Mount Vesuvius. I may have had that same wine. Was it a local winery?
Yes.
I have a bottle of that in my house right now. Actually.
Yeah, no, it's absolutely delicious, but it's like heartburn for the next 3 weeks.
Yeah.
In my opinion, and I definitely appreciate that. But we're gonna go into our last break. When we come back, we're gonna have another guest. We're gonna have Kiki of Country Financial Insurance, and I'm sure she'll have lots of amazing questions for you. So stay tuned. If you want to call in, 520-790-2040, and we'll be right back. Stay tasty, Tucson. Welcome back to the Tucson Tasty Show. I'm your host, Wesley Source, here with Kiki Rogers of Country Financial Insurance. We still have Mike of Harbottle Brewing Company. So excited. I can't imagine a better episode today, and I'm so glad that you were able to come in, and we really got to talk about the rich history of the brewery. And I'm definitely appreciative. This is my good friend, Kiki Rogers. She's also of Kiki Skis.
Yes.
And Country Financial Insurance. Now, she saved me $1,300 a year by switching to auto insurance and my house. And absolutely incredible. Super simple. She made everything really easy. So hello.
Thank you. Hello. Thank you for having me.
So we were deep in a discussion about how he makes his sours, his pickle beer.
The pickle sour, yes.
Yeah. Yes, do tell. I have had this pickle beer, and I thought it was absolutely lovely. But my great-grandfather used to call me Pickles because I loved them so much. So share more, please.
I don't know how much more we can say on the subject. I could talk about it. I could talk about it forever, for sure. It's funny. My daughter was the same way. We'd catch her at 10 o'clock at night, in the kitchen drinking pickle juice straight from the jar. And I used to think she was crazy. And then one day she looked at me and she just held up the pickle jar and she's like, "You want to try some?" She wasn't wrong, and then we both get in trouble drinking all the pickle juice. My wife would go to make something like a charcuterie board, and she's like, "Why are all the pickles dry?" I'm like, "Because we drank all the pickle juice." So I understand.
You got to dry them out anyways,
right?
So,
it's fine.
Looks like we have a question from Sean. Sean, how you doing today?
Hey, I'm doing great, Wesley. How are you?
I'm living the dream. Just trying to recover from that amazing marathon that I had over the last week. But you had a question for
I think I
Mike?
recognize that.
I think I know this guy.
Hi, Sean.
Hey, Mike, how are you?
Good. How you been, Sean?
I'm doing awesome, man. I absolutely love your guys' IPA. It's just the most delicious thing on earth.
Oh, thank you. Unfortunately, we're out of it right now. We had a little shortage of hops, but it's in the fermenter and coming out very soon. So I apologize if you've been in recently.
I was curious when I'm going to be able to come down and get some more in my growler to bring home.
We should have that available probably at the end of this next week, or maybe the week following. So it's
awesome.
Yeah, we had a little hiccup in our supply chain with hops, and we fell behind on that one, but it's coming back very soon. I know it's never good to not have your flagship on tap.
Mike, do you have a Facebook page someone could watch for to see that announcement come out?
Yeah, we're on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, all the things. Just Harbottle Brewing. You can find us super easy. We also have a website, harbottle.brewing.com or harbottle.brewingco.com. They both take you to the same place. And we keep that. I try to update that every week if I can. Every Monday I try to update anything. We don't really have a live tap list, so I'll try and post on social media when new things are tapped. We just tapped a new beer just 2 days ago. It's our amber lager called Notre Bajas Tanto. And that actually surprised the heck out of me. Last week we got an email from Untappd.com. It won the best amber lager in the whole state, according to Untappd. So
goodness,
yeah. So it was great. So everyone who got out there and drank that beer and rated it on Untappd, thank you, because that was a nice surprise to be number one in the amber lager. It's not an easy category to be number one in.
No.
Congratulations.
So what question do you have for us, Sean?
Well, so I was curious from a marketing standpoint. Do you work with any restaurants in town, or could a business like mine or the Tucson Tasty Show like partner up and do a beer and do like a custom label with you?
Absolutely. We love doing collaborations. We actually we've done so many. We did one last year with Davis Monthan Air Force Base, actually, and we did a great we did a Belgian wit beer with them last year, and we've done collaborations with restaurants, and just it doesn't matter if you're a restaurant or local business owner or just a beer enthusiast. We love getting together and doing collaborations with people. So absolutely,
that's awesome.
Thank you so much for that question. That's actually brilliant.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thank you.
Absolutely. Well, I'll reach back out to you, Mike, and find out more details.
All right, Sean.
All right,
Sounds
and
good.
in
Thank you, guys.
Thank you for joining us, and thank you for calling in. So in this last segment, now that we're almost out on the show, and we've learned so much about Harbottle Brewing and Captain Harbottle, why don't we try some, man?
We got some. So I did. Of course, I had to bring some goodies.
I showed up just at the right time.
You
All
did.
right.
You showed up at show and tell time.
Yay.
So I did bring, and I didn't know how much to bring. So if you know, I brought a 4-pack of our American Gherkin, the dill pickle sour.
Awesome.
And of course, I came prepared.
And
with
I
some
love that
glassware.
artwork.
Perfect. I have a little one of the little red trays that we can pour. No, I'm kidding.
Whatever you. I didn't know if there would be some glasses here, so
no, that's perfect.
So I'll just
perfect. So just a little bit for each of us.
Yeah,
so we
just
can,
a splash.
we
And I
can talk
figured
about it here.
whatever doesn't get drank can be parting gifts, and you guys can take them home or do whatever you like. But I had to bring some to share.
And who designed your cans there? Because those are pretty interesting.
Label for a second.
So
yeah.
I actually I do all the artwork for our T-shirts, for our beer labels, and all that. And in another life, I thought I was going to be a graphic designer.
Okay.
And I briefly went to college for that. I loved art. I loved drawing, graphic design, and turned out college is not one size fits all. I actually had an advisor in college tell me, you know what, you have such an entrepreneurial spirit. I think you're better off going to find your own way. And turns out she was right. But I still never lost the love for drawing and doing artwork. And so this can, American Gherkin, kind of the name came from my wife. As I'm racking my brain trying to figure out, like, what is this label going to look like? Pickles. And what is pickles going to be? And I looked at her, I'm like, I don't know why, but I just keep getting this American Gothic vibe in my head for no good reason whatsoever.
No,
and my wife just laughed and she goes, American Gherkin. And I loved it. Like, that's the name right there.
Very creative.
And so I got to work, and usually I'll sit in my backyard with a small glass of whiskey and my laptop and do some drawing, and a couple nights of just playing around came up with this little American Gothic theme.
It's a
can.
really cool can.
You can smell the pickle in the beer, but it doesn't overwhelm the beer.
Yeah, it's unmistakably like you're about to drink something dill pickle for sure.
Yes.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers.
Lovely. Thank you.
So, I mean, the color, it's a really good color. Again, you got to go to the Tasty Show 520. Check it out. And the color is really an amazing color, but it's also very clear. Do you clarify it at all?
So we use fining agents. We don't filter any of our beer. I'm kind of an old school brewer like that, and as long as you remain small, I believe that
Fair enough.
our livers do a good job filtering for us. But as we grow as a brewery and production times become a little more critical, filtering becomes more of a necessity in a brewery when you got to turn beer around quickly. For now, we let time and temperature clear up the beer. So if it needs to sit for 2 or 3 days to get nice and clear, it'll sit for 2 or 3 days. So I like
that you put into every aspect of the brewing is absolutely incredible, and thank you for sharing with
It's
us.
so much fun. Thank you.
This has been incredible. Thanks
So-
for having me.
So on the nose, I mean, yeah, you definitely smell that pickle, but it doesn't smell like just like this overwhelming pickle. It's a soft pickle smell to it, and then when you taste it, the tasting notes, I mean, it's definitely sour,
Felt.
but it's not very sour. It's not
Kinda
like
citrus.
a warhead where you put it in your mouth and you get a little tear.
But
No.
believe it or not, the pH is down there to almost
Yeah.
near warhead status. But
Is
that pickle adds back that saltiness, even though it's acidic as well. It somehow cuts through and doesn't make it as mouth puckeringly sour.
Right.
If you come to the brewery after this today, I have some going in the kettle that's just the pure unpickled sour, and you can see how sour it is out of the
Well,
fermenter.
I'll have to take producer Tina over there, and we'll have to get some pictures.
We'll make a field trip out of it.
We got the thumbs up. And then, but you also get this really smooth bite on the oats, or not the oats, the grains,
Hops.
the grains, and so it smooths it out a little bit more, and you get that really good finish. So you don't have bitter in the back; it's all sour in the front, and then it's a clean finish. And again, you drink it, and you're thinking that, or I'm thinking, anyways, this is gonna, it's gonna gurgle in my stomach a little bit. And it doesn't at all, and it's a really good, refreshing drink for next to the pool.
We went out to a restaurant last night, and I had 4 cans of it with my dinner there. And the server was like, "You're a machine. Like, I've never seen anyone drink 3 of those in a row." I was like, "How's your stomach feeling?" I love this stuff. I can't get enough of it.
And you can go to the brewery and get cans of it.
We have cans available at the brewery right now.
And this is amazing for going into pool season, sitting next to the pool. Nice, refreshing. Some electrolytes from the pickles, maybe.
You know what? We brought this to a hops and hockey event. And Wayne Gretzky used to always swear by drinking pickle juice, and all the hockey fans were like, "Yeah, I get my electrolytes.
Perfect.
My cramps are gone."
Well, thank you so much for joining us today in the Tucson Tasty Show. We'll see you next week, or next Saturday from 3 to 4. We'll have an amazing show planned, or we have an amazing show planned. And again, we're at our new home on Saturdays from 3 to 4 on 10:30 a.m. The Voice. And thank you to all of our amazing sponsors. And don't forget, stay tasty, Tucson.